I'm Truman the Grey Merchant, and I love Avatar The Last Airbender. Either it or The Simpsons are the show that I've seen the most. Both are about bald heroes. With the new Avatar set coming out, I thought it'd be fun to review it from a Vorthos perspective, because Vorthos means appreciation for a card's flavor, not specifically the magic storyline. I'll be looking at every Avatar card, from the main set to the ugly, ugly bonus cards. Before we begin, did you know that 86% of you aren't subscribed? This is the 5th full-size Universes Beyond or adjacent set. Of them, in terms of flavor success, I would personally put it, The Lord of the Rings, and Dungeons & Dragons on top, then Final Fantasy, then Spider-Man. It's not controversial to say that Spider-Man's source material didn't feel big enough for even that smaller set. It mostly feels like a collection of repetitive characters as opposed to a world or story. In contrast, as someone who has never played a Final Fantasy game, incorporating elements from every game left me feeling overwhelmed. Again, this is a personal response and not necessarily indicative of the general audience reaction. With the caveat that I am more familiar with the franchises, the other three strike the right balance in scope to me. Mark Rosewater has a good article where he describes his experience playtesting the set as someone unfamiliar with the show. He describes figuring out basic aspects of the setting, such as the 4 elements, bending, the nations, and hybrid animals. I am curious to hear about the experiences of other players learning about Avatar through the set. I think it hits all the important points while probably not getting bogged down in minutia. While I am a fan of The Legend of Korra and the various supplementary Avatar stories, I'm glad that they mostly zoned in on just the original series for the set. It's okay to simply introduce the world. You don't have to also show it 70 years in the future and hundreds of years in the past. That said, there are minor expansions and inclusions from other stories that fit, without being distracting. For example, I don't think that Agna Kella is ever named in the original show. This spirit also reminds me of the Korra ones. However, Wartime Protesters is too out there without additional context. I don't think the Fire Nation royal family or military would allow open protesting like this. The one area where I don't think they kept the unfamiliar players in mind is in some of the flavor texts. For example, the Earth King card has his quote, "Bosco seems to like him." Anyone who hasn't seen the show would have no idea who him refers to. Even if you figure out that Bosco is the bear, you'd be forgiven for assuming that the him is the Earth King. An example of a card that I think avoids this is Master's Guidance. I don't believe that a set needs to be traditional fantasy to feel like magic. Many classic sets aren't that. That said, The Last Airbender has all the hallmarks you would expect from a magic set. Rosewater has mentioned in the past that UB sets sometimes struggle with representing green and finding flyers, respectively. It doesn't seem like either of those were an issue here. The series' trademark bizarre animals play an important role in fleshing out the set's creature base generally. This set probably has the most creatures whose creature types match their card name in Magic history. Flavorfully, perhaps the most important thing for the set to get right is bending. I remember a lot of speculation on what that would look like when the set was first announced. A lot of that was trying to figure out which colors would correspond with each element. Ultimately, water bending is centered in blue, earth bending in green, fire bending in red, and air bending in white, while still allowing each element to show up in other colors where appropriate. This makes sense to me. I like that they lean in certain directions, but aren't locked to a single color each. This is how I would order the 4 bending types in terms of flavorfulness. Airbending temporarily exiles a permanent. That's a perfect representation of airbending, as you can use it as non-lethal removal, or to allow one of your creatures to escape. Earthbending animates a land, which is another perfect representation of the technique at its most basic form. While the creature returning as a regular land when it dies is probably primarily for power balance reasons, it's flavorful that the Earth goes back to being regular Earth when the fight is over. Firebending adds temporary mana. While direct damage would have been the more obvious choice, this works too. Fire is the element of power, after all. Finally, waterbending is similar to Convoke. This is the only one that I initially didn't get. It took seeing a comment about redirecting energy for me to make the connection. While it works well enough, it's not a slam dunk like the other 3. The other set mechanics are also worth discussing. Allies are a great inclusion, as teamwork is one of the biggest themes of the series. It's also a nice tool for representing redemption arcs. That said, Season 1 Iroh and Jet arguably shouldn't be allies. Lessons are also a good fit, given that mastering the elements is a central plot point of the series. The Ascension cycle and its quest counters also represent this aspect well. There are other points from the show that also make enough sense as lessons. Some of these are really stretches though. Shrines are also appropriate to the setting, but it's awkward that the Air Nation got two. In contrast, the land cycle has a 5th card for the spirit world, which I think works better. Sagas fit any setting, and this is no exception. The transforming creature sagas are a good way to represent a handful of past characters. I like that the other two main set sagas are based on in-universe works. I appreciate how the set uses creature types generally. Fortunately, the way the series and Magic use the term avatar match up well, as both are embodiments of a larger entity. Notably, each transformed avatar is colorless, which I suppose represents how they channel all their past lives simultaneously. I like that the lion turtle is an elder. The various wall creatures are a fun utilization of a Magic-specific quirk. There are several cards that meld references to the show and Magic's history well. In the main set, the reprints are all appropriate and flavorful. The set continues the trend of representing some specific characters as non-legendary creatures. It is worth noting that's not specifically a Yubi thing, though. I'm in favor of its use here. I'm against sets being overloaded with legends. I think that the number of cards per main character here is excessive. I don't think players should be expected to memorize differences between 9 Aangs and 9 Zuko's. My favorite of the non-legendary legends is Joe D, the only one to retain an original name. That's a nice touch. It is weird that some characters have one of each, though. I also have some observations on individual cards. I love that Professor Z literally sacrifices himself for knowledge. Sozin's Comet strengthening firebending is great. Foretell makes sense name-wise, and the fact that it's the only card with Foretell in the set means that your opponent will know it's coming, just like the Fire Lord's opponents did in the show. Buzzard Wasp Colony's flavor text is a lesser version of Tarmogoyf's. Yes, Sokka's haiku is fun. Elemental Teaching has you discard half of the elements, which is odd. Origin of Metal Bending didn't have room to credit Guru Patik for his quote. Team Avatar kind of makes sense since Aang is the leader, but ultimately a teamwork flavored card that only wants a single creature to attack is awkward. I put Zhang Zhang's Deserters in the Ancient Grudge school of overexplained flavor text. Destroying an attacking creature is neither avoiding nor evading. Finally, let's talk art. As a whole, I like this set's art. I think there are a lot of incredible pieces in it, but there is arguably greater inconsistency in stylization than in most sets. Some art is similar to the shows, some use the standard Magic realism, and some are more anime than the show is. Don't be pedantic about what's anime. Potential AI art aside, I don't really know what's going on here. As always, I think there are way too many variant art styles, but in a vacuum, I like each one, except the textless ones, which I'm against on principle. My favorites are the field note variants. Now we finally have to talk about the source material cards. Art-wise, I hate these. I know I'm not breaking new ground by saying these look fan-made, but they're embarrassing. I also find UB's original art to come across as being of a higher production value than ARC's often blurry or weirdly colored screenshots. In terms of the card concepts, they're a mixed bag. Join the dance? Sure. Empty City Ruse? Genuinely inspired. I didn't know there was a pre-existing card that made Zeppelins. But Blasphemous Act? No. Perhaps the worst thing about this bonus sheet is that people are misjudging the main set for it. As a whole, it's a lovingly crafted set that adopts the series really well. A few missteps aside. The source material is the perfect size for a Magic set and provides all the necessary elements. Yes, pun intended. But what do y'all think? Is there anything I missed or that you disagree with? Let me know below. And I actually did another Avatar video a few years ago, if you're interested in more Avatar content. As always, thank you very much to my patrons. If you want to learn more about that, my podcast, or any of my other links, check below. Bye.